Hey again, my friends. How's it going? It's Carpo here. And in this video, I'd like to answer the question I've been asked several times over the last few years, is what I think about DMT. And considering I don't make very many videos about psychedelics, people might think that if you don't know me and know my channel, you might think, well, he just isn't into psychedelics. On the contrary, I have taken... I don't want to start, putting things online is a little bit bold when you start talking about numbers, but let's just say I've had a vast experience with psychedelics. Vast experience. I first discovered LSD when I was 16 years old. 15, I think, maybe 16. And a friend of mine got a quarter sheet for his birthday. And, the rest is history. I remember many of these trips very distinctly, and some of them were catalysts to change in my life that I could never begin to put into words. And maybe that's why I don't talk about psychedelics. Because if I say psychedelics are amazing, then I feel like I'm putting it out there that, some other people might try psychedelics, and if they don't have the proper guidance, if they don't have the proper understanding or the proper intention, then, and the location, set and setting, there are several different components, or the right substance, then they might have a bad experience and it could actually damage a person. In fact, many psychedelics are known to trigger psychotic episodes and can cause a person to fall into schizophrenia if they are already predisposed to these conditions. Okay? There's not enough research to show whether or not it will cause schizophrenia in a person who's not predisposed, but I would like to say that in the 50s and 60s, scientists and doctors were taking LSD in order to mimic the effects of schizophrenia so they could relate to the patients, because they thought it was the closest to that experience. Now, under the influence of LSD, the brain does some amazing things. The frontal cortex shuts down slightly, and then other parts of the brain start communicating that ordinarily don't communicate. I don't want to get into the science or the details of why this happens, because it's not going to just fly over everybody's head. It does over mine. What we're asking is really, are there any long-term benefits from psychedelic usage? And if so, what are they? And how often should a person take psychedelics? So I'm going to give you my personal experience. And over the years, I've found that taking... I prefer psilocybin, or mushrooms, over LSD because it's shorter lasting, much heavier on the body. And people who like to go out and party and stuff will take LSD because maybe it's lighter and they can enjoy themselves longer. It lasts like 10, 12 hours sometimes. But more like 8 generally for, the full experience. But like 5 to 6 hours for mushrooms and you're usually pretty tired. But the experience is so much heavier. And a lot of folks back in the day, we'd split an eighth of mushrooms. And then, in recent years, I tried 5 grams of really potent penis envy mushrooms. And we had these other ones called golden teachers. My friend and I went out into the woods, we laid down under the stars, and we split a half an ounce of them. So we took 7 grams each. That night is a night I'll never forget. It was amazing. And I had so many insights. And really I walked away from that night saying, all that matters to us as humans is our stories. It was the night that I realized that storytelling is really what matters the most to us. And how a good storyteller can go far in this world. And so I vowed to learn more stories, but I still haven't fulfilled that. That was a few years ago. So anyhow, enough about my experiences. I've been there. I've had some pretty intense moments, and have they improved my life? I think that they have given me the insight to help want to change. A few years back when I was hanging out with some friends, we were at home here, and I took some MDMA, which is not a psychedelic necessarily, but it gives you that definitely, it's being used in psychotherapy heavily. It can be psychedelic, but I don't like using the term. Let's just stick to the point. That night I decided, I was confused. I had lost my job as a carpenter because my back was messed up, and I didn't know what to do with my life. I hadn't been employed in a while. That night, during that experience, I told myself, I'm going to start a business. I have to. I mean, what am I going to do? I have to do something. And I decided, well, I really love kratom. It's an amazing plant. People have asked me where to get good kratom, so I'm going to start a kratom business. And the next day, I went and signed up for all this, the bullshit you have to deal with, banking and everything, and did it. And I thought, all it took was one night of tripping on this idea for a few hours. Because we all have passing ideas of things we want to do, but how often do you just sit and think about it for hours on end? Like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? And so yes, psychedelics can be a catalyst for change. They can make you want to change. But what about DMT? And that, I'm sorry that I spent the first 5 minutes talking about other psychedelics, but that's how I had to get to this point. It was about 18 years old I was when I first tried, maybe 7, I think 18 or 19, when somebody brought some DMT home and we tried it. All I remember is that when I came to, I was like, holy shit. And it was many years before I ran into it again. But when I went to Soak, the regional Burning Man, the first year, I met somebody and tried some and ended up getting a few grams, and it would sit around and I would do it now and again. It's extremely potent psychedelic, very short lasting, maybe like 5 minutes. They compare it, like Terrence McKenna compared it to being blasted off in a cannon to the moon. It's intense. So I've had 2 lines of thought. One is like, it's just an intense experience. You see weird entities, aliens, shapes, designs. You can't explain what they are. You could never define it to somebody who's never been there. The question becomes, are those things real? Can you use them in your daily life? And what is the benefit of taking DMT? And a lot of folks have said that it's been extremely beneficial and helped them change their lives, so I can't doubt that. But I would just like to offer my advice that if a person's looking to expand their consciousness, I think that psilocybin might be a better option because it allows you to process things over a longer period of time. Therefore, you can take more away from it. This book right here, I had several years ago, I got this. Rick Strassman wrote it. It's DMT, the Spirit Molecule. Anybody who's a psychonaut's heard of it. He was a doctor, medical doctor who did pioneering research in DMT. And I was going to read this page, but it'll just take too long. But it's about what did people actually get from it? And that's what he was trying to figure out. Are there any long-term benefits? And there can be. These intense moments can make you want to change yourself. And the best benefit that I found from psychedelics is that they make you see yourself for who you are. You can't lie to yourself. They give you a true image that you've made mistakes, but it's okay. It doesn't beat you up or make you feel self-critical to the point where you hate yourself, nor does it just feed your ego and say, oh, you're the greatest and everything's fine. MDMA can kind of make everything seem fine at times, whereas LSD or psilocybin will just tell you how it is. I can't explain how that works. I truly believe that we evolved alongside these substances, psilocybin and DMT, as some sort of a benefit to us at one time. I can't deny that these neurotransmitters predate humans. Many of them, like serotonin, dopamine-like transmitters, and psilocybin and LSD are very similar to serotonin in shape, and that's how they work. Serotonin gives you your reality, your kind of feeling of, okay, this is normal. And when you take psychedelics, it fills that same, it's a key to that same lock, but it's a different key. And so it's really easy to see how we might have evolved alongside these substances to help us, and they may have helped us evolve, which Terrence McKenna took it to the extreme with the stoned ape theory, believing that, we ate mushrooms because they were growing on dung, and we ended up having tighter communities because of it. I think that's possible, but I don't know if language was created because of psychedelics. I mean, they only occurred in different areas. They were all different psychedelics. Yes, I think plant medicine and substances had a role in our evolution, but, that language evolved over a very long period of time, from grunts and groans to like, and next thing you know, we're talking and using words, and it's pretty amazing. But what can psychedelics do for us today? I mean, if everyone had experienced that mindset, would it really change the world? And a lot of people believe it would. In fact, it was Timothy Leary who believed if we just gave everyone acid, the whole world would be fine. But he kind of did more damage than he realized at the time to the movement. And it was because of guys like Leary who were just giving it away to everyone and promoting it that the government cracked down. But it didn't matter. The government would have cracked down anyway. And in the 70s, when they decided they were going to start fighting against MDMA and ban that, they had hundreds of doctors and psychiatrists through the country who were fighting against the government, just like with the Kratom thing right now. And they said, this is an amazing substance that can actually help us in psychotherapy. It was kind of like an underground substance people had been using, but it was helping people overcome their trauma. It was helping people reconnect with their relationships, with their loved ones, their friends, their family. And the government decided to take it away because of what? I guess that's a question for another situation, another story. The government tried LSD on their own soldiers. They knew the benefit and the risk, and the risk was the fact that once soldiers took it, they decided, I don't want to go fight anymore. And so, so I think these psychedelics are amazing tools, but I think a person needs to have reverence and respect. If a person's never tried these things, find somebody who has. Don't just be, stubborn and go out and buy something. Don't buy some shit on the dark web or online. There are test kits for everything. So if you're going to take LSD or psilocybin's pretty easy. Mushrooms are mushrooms. But if you're going to take LSD or any analog like that, LSA or LAD, which I've taken, you have to know what you're taking and be able to test it, and that's hard. So have somebody trustworthy. And I guess that's, I should leave it at that. Have a fantastic day. Thanks for listening. As usual, psychedelic questions are welcome, but I'm not going to tell you where to get them. I've had so many people email me saying, where can I get mushrooms or acid? I'm like, are you kidding me?
Hot cross
But,
buns.
so be well. I'll talk to you soon.
Hot
Have a good
cross
day.
buns. Nope, so hot. Hot.
Hot cross bun.
Thanks for coming to Carpo's channel, yo.